when Liam's childhood sweetheart hit me with her car. He rushed to the scene. I was pressing a tissue to my bleeding knee, and the blood from my fingers smudged the anniversary bracelet he had given Meth, only thing had given me in 3 years that he dared to let see the light of day. The childhood sweetheart tearfully threw herself into his arms. Liam. She rode her bike. Without looking, he said nothing, simply wrapping his suit jacket around her to cover the dust on her skirt, while my blood dripped onto the hard asphalt. His gaze fell on my knee and lingered for 2 seconds, as if confirming something. I clutched the pregnancy test report in my pocket. The date on it was 3 days earlier than the effective date of our divorce agreement. When his sweetheart asked if we knew each other, he took her hand, turned away, and his voice was as light as the wind. I don't know her. I watched their car disappear into the traffic, then slowly folded the pregnancy report into a small square and stuffed it into a Band-Aid wrapper. It was for the best. This way, he would never know that what he had just pushed away wasn't just his wife, but also his unborn child. When Liam's familiar black Maybach screeched to a halt, I was sitting pathetically on the hot asphalt, a piercing pain shooting through my knee. Warm, sticky blood was seeping from the wound, soaking through my dress and covering my fingers. My other hand instinctively went to my knee, but my fingertips brushed against the cool chain on my wrist. It was the anniversary bracelet Liam had given me, a thin platinum chain with a diamond so small it was almost negligible. It was modest, but it was the only thing he had dared to give me in our 3 years of marriage without some excuse. Out in the open. Now, the blood on my fingers had stained that tiny diamond, tarnishing its faint sparkle, just like it had tarnished our secret, shameful marriage. Liam. A tearful, affected female voice cut through the air. It was Stella, Liam's true childhood sweetheart, the white moonlight of his heart, his one true love. She had scraped me and my bicycle with her flashy red sports car, yet she was the one acting like the victim. She ran towards him, landing perfectly in his open arms. Liam. I was so scared she just started out on her bike. I couldn't stop in time. Stella's voice trembled just right, her shoulders shaking, the very picture of a damsel in distress. Liam caught her instinctively, his brow furrowed slightly. He quickly scanned her for injuries, and only after confirming she was unharmed did his gaze fall on me. It was a cold look, like winter ice. It's okay, Stella. It's okay, he murmured, his voice softer and gentler than I had ever heard. Then, he took off his expensive, custom-made suit jacket and draped it over her, carefully covering the tiny speck of dust on her skirt, as if she were a fragile treasure. Meanwhile, blood was trickling down my leg, drop by drop, onto the hard, cold asphalt, creating small, dark red stains. No one cared. Liam's gaze finally landed on my bleeding knee. It lingered for about 2 seconds. It was short, yet it felt like an eternity, long enough for me to clearly see that there was no concern, no worry in his eyes, only a cold, analytical confirmation. What was he confirming? Whether I was seriously injured, or whether I was faking it. In those 2 seconds, my heart sank to the bottom of a frozen lake. My right hand, hidden from view, clenched into a fist, my nails digging into my palm. I felt no pain, because something else, hidden in my pocket, hurt far more. A thin piece of paper, a pregnancy test report. The date on it, bright and glaring, was a full 3 days before our signed divorce agreement was due to take effect. 3 days. Just 72 hours. But it was an impassable chasm that separated me from him, and this unborn child from its nominal father. Liam. Do you know her? Stella whispered from the safety of his arms, her eyes filled with a mixture of feigned innocence and triumphant curiosity. Liam didn't answer right away. He took her hand, a smooth, natural gesture. Then he turned to leave. As he passed me, he didn't even slow down. A single, light phrase drifted into my ear on the hot summer wind, so light it felt like a hallucination. I don't know her. 3 words. They severed the last of my ridiculous illusions about him. I watched his expensive car carry him and his precious childhood sweetheart away, disappearing into the traffic without a backward glance. As if I were just an inconvenient pebble on the side of the road, the crowd of onlookers slowly dispersed. The sun was still blinding. The bleeding from my knee seemed to have slowed, but a cold despair was spreading from my heart through my entire body. Slowly, I uncurled my clenched fist, There were deep crescent marks in my palm from my nails. With difficulty, I shifted my weight and pulled the folded pregnancy report from my pocket. White paper, black ink, a red hospital stamp, a stark reminder of this child's reality, and of its terrible timing. I stared at the paper for a long time. Then, slowly, I began to fold it into an even smaller square. Beside me lay the empty wrapper of a Band-Aid that had fallen from my purse. I took the tiny, folded report and carefully stuffed it inside. A perfect fit. It's for the best, I told myself. This way, he would never know. He would never know that the person he had just disowned, the person he had so coldly declared a stranger, was not just his soon-to-be wife. It was also his unborn child, a child he had personally pushed away. I grabbed a nearby railing and, ignoring the searing pain in my knee, tried to stand. Once, twice, cold sweat beaded on my forehead, and my vision swam. But I knew I couldn't collapse here. Not now. Because from the moment Liam said, "I don't know her," it was over between us. And this farce of a marriage, which he had started, was one I would now have to end, with a finale he would never expect. I took a deep breath and, with all my strength, finally managed to get to my feet. The movement tore the wound on my knee open again, and fresh blood began to flow. But this time, I didn't try to stop it. I looked down at the bulging Band-Aid wrapper in my hand and closed my fingers around it. Then I started to limp away, in the opposite direction from which Liam had gone. Every step felt like walking on broken glass. But every step also took me further away from the quicksand that was Liam. You think this is the end, Liam? No. This is just the beginning. The real show is about to start. And are you, and your dear Stella, ready? I didn't call an ambulance or go to the nearest hospital. Instead, I hailed a taxi. The driver was alarmed by my bloody knee, but I shook my head and gave him an address. It was an old apartment building on the other side of the city, far from the home I shared with Liam. It was a small, old place my mother had left me, but it was clean, and it was my last resort, my secret fortress. Liam knew nothing about it. In his eyes, I, Clara Sue, was just an orphan with no family, someone he could easily control. He had probably long forgotten that on the day we registered our marriage, I had timidly asked if he wanted to see the old apartment my mother had left me. His reply, he was adjusting his tie in the mirror and didn't even pause. What's there to see in a place like that? He was right. A rundown old building was beneath his notice, which was a good thing. It was now my only sanctuary. I paid the driver and hobbled up the stairs, each step a fresh wave of agony. But worse than the pain in my knee was the ache in my heart. Not because of Liam's cruelty, but because of the Band-Aid wrapper in my pocket. It held my child, and my ridiculous future. Inside, the faint smell of dust filled the air, but I felt an unprecedented sense of peace. I locked the door and slid to the floor. Finally, I was alone. The tears came, not in loud sobs, but in a silent, unending stream. For myself, and for the unwanted child. I cried until my eyes were swollen and raw. Then I got up, went to the bathroom, and splashed cold water on my face. I looked at the woman in the mirror, pale, reedied, her hair a mess, a gruesome wound on her knee. That was Clara Sue, the Clara Sue who had loved Liam for years, only to be met with "I don't know her." Pathetic. I gave myself a bitter smile. Then I began to treat my knee. The wound wasn't as deep as it looked. I cleaned it, disinfected it, applied ointment, and bandaged it, all with a strange, detached calm. After changing into clean clothes, I sat down at the old desk. I carefully took out the pregnancy report from the Band-Aid wrapper and laid it flat. Next to it, I placed another document I had retrieved from a hidden drawer, the divorce agreement, already signed by me, just waiting for his signature to become effective. The terms were simple. I was walking away with almost nothing, besides the small sum he had given me as a bride price to appease his family. I hadn't asked for a single extra penny. He probably thought I was being sensible. I placed the two documents side by side. White paper, black ink, the cruelest contrast. The divorce would be final in 3 days. The report showed the child had existed for 4 weeks. My fingers gently traced the image of the tiny gestational sac. "Baby," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "I'm sorry you had to come into this world this way. But don't be afraid." My eyes hardened. "Mommy will protect you." From now on, it's just us. Yes, just us. Liam had pushed us away in the cruelest way possible. From this moment on, he was not a husband, not a lover. He wasn't even worthy of being this child's father. He was a stranger who would have to pay for what he had done. I turned on my phone. As expected, there were no missed calls, no messages. He was probably busy comforting his childhood sweetheart. Good. I found a number in my contacts I had almost never used. The contact name was Mr. Davis, a lawyer I had helped by chance a long time ago. He had insisted I take his card. I dialed the number. Hello. Who is this? A steady male voice answered. Mr. Davis. Hello. This is Clara Sue. A long time ago. At the Central Hospital. Your mother. Oh, Miss Sue. His voice was instantly warm with gratitude. I remember. I've always wanted to thank you for your help. What can I do for you, Mr. Davis? I paused, trying to keep my voice steady. I need some legal advice about a divorce. And about child custody. There was a brief silence. Then his tone became professional. Miss Sue, please. Go ahead. I explained the situation in brief, omitting Liam's identity and the uglier details. I emphasized his infidelity. Stella's existence was proof. The breakdown of the marriage. And the fact that I was pregnant but he didn't know. I wanted a divorce. Full custody. Child support. And no visitation rights for him until the child was an adult. He was professional and didn't pry. Miss Sue, based on what you've described, if you can provide evidence of his infidelity and his neglect during your pregnancy, the court will likely rule in your favor. Completely revoking visitation rights is difficult, but we can argue for restricted, supervised visits. As for child support, that is his legal obligation. I understand, I said, clutching the phone. Mr. Davis, I want to proceed as quickly and discreetly as possible, especially regarding the child. He cannot know about the pregnancy for now. We can manage that. Miss Sue, when would you be free to meet? I'll need more details to formulate the best strategy. Tomorrow, I said without hesitation. You name the time and place. All right, my office, 10 a.m. tomorrow. After hanging up, I let out a long breath. The first step was taken. Now for the hard part. I looked at the 2 documents on my desk, my eyes turning to ice. Liam, you said you don't know me. Then let me introduce myself. Let me show you what a woman pushed to the edge is capable of. You and Stella are so in love. Let's see how much your love can withstand. I opened Stella's Instagram. As expected, she had posted 10 minutes ago. Just a photo. No caption. A pair of hands. One masculine and well-formed, the other slender and manicured, were clasped on a table at what looked like an upscale restaurant. On their wrists were matching watches. That was Liam's hand. I recognized the small, faint mole on his wrist. They were having dinner, celebrating their near miss. Or perhaps, celebrating the fact that I was finally out of the picture. I saved the photo, the first piece of evidence. Then I opened an app one had almost forgotten about, a home security cloud storage app. Liam had installed hidden cameras in our living room and entryway for security reasons when we first married. He had probably forgotten all about them. But now, they might provide some surprises. I logged in. The real-time feed was dark. No one was home. I went to the history. I saw Stella in my slippers, walking around the living room. I saw her cuddling with Liam on the sofa. I even saw a clip of her, in a sexy silk nightgown, opening the door for him when he came home late, taking his briefcase like a dutiful wife. I watched, numb. So this was how they lived when I wasn't there, like a real couple. And I, the legal wife, was the intruder. I saved a few of the most damning clips. This wasn't enough. I wanted ironclad proof that would ruin them, something they could never recover from. I wanted them to pay for today's I don't know her. The game had begun. The next morning, I arrived at Mr. Davis law firm 10 minutes early. My knee still ached, but I walked with a steady, deliberate pace. I couldn't show any weakness. Mr. Davis was a sharp, capable-looking man in his 40s. His eyes widened in concern when he saw my bandaged knee. A small accident, I said, dismissing it. I gave him a more detailed account of the situation, including Liam's identity as the eldest son of the prominent Gu family, our sham marriage, and Stella's role. When I told him about Liam's I don't know her, He frowned. That's beyond cruel. It's inhumane. Miss Sue, you are being far too kind, he said, looking at the divorce agreement where I had asked for almost nothing. Under the law, you are entitled to a share of the marital assets, especially as he is the at-fault party. At the time, I just wanted it to be over. I explained. This lawsuit is not just about getting what's fair, he said, his eyes glinting with professional fire. It's about making him pay for his actions. We will fight for full custody, and we will make him pay a significant price financially. Mr. Davis, my top priorities are twofold, I said, meeting his gaze. First, I must have full custody, and I want his visitation rights severely restricted. Second, he cannot know about the child, at least not until after the divorce is finalized. He considered this. Concealing the pregnancy is risky. He could later contest the settlement. But I respect your decision. We will proceed with caution. The first step is to secure evidence. We signed the retainer agreement. From that moment, I was no longer the passive, hopeful Mrs. Gu. I was Clara Sue, a mother fighting for her child. The evidence needs to be direct and irrefutable, he advised. I understand, I said, thinking of the security cameras. I have a plan. Leaving his office, I felt a sense of purpose. I booked an appointment at a private hospital for a detailed prenatal checkup and an official injury report. Then, I called Mrs. Liu, the part-time housekeeper who had worked for us for 3 years. Mrs. Liu, I said, my voice calm but weary. I had a fall. The doctor says I need to rest. I might need you to come in more often. Oh my, are you all right? She asked, full of concern. Does Mr. Gu know? He's busy, I said vaguely. By the way, didn't you say your son is good with computers? I have an old tablet that's not working. I was hoping he could take a look and recover some data. Of course. I'd be happy to help. No rush, I said. Just have him pick it up the next time you come over. I hung up, a small, cold smile on my lips. The tablet was a decoy. Mrs. Liu's son was a computer whiz. I needed him to do some technical work like ensuring the cloud recordings from the security cameras were preserved, and perhaps even recovering deleted files, or perhaps finding some surprises on Liam's own computer. It was risky, but I had nothing left to lose. Later that afternoon, my phone rang. An unknown number. It was Stella. My heart sank. How did she get my number? But I quickly composed myself. Clara, it's Stella. Are you okay? I'm so sorry about yesterday. Liam and I were so worried about you. Worried. The word was a poisoned dart. I'm not dead, I said flatly. Please don't be like that, she said, her voice turning tearful. I know you're angry. Liam already yelled at me, by the way. How did you end up on that road on a bicycle? It's so dangerous. She was probing, trying to see if I was setting them up. Do I need to report my whereabouts to you? I asked coldly. No, that's not what I meant actually. Besides apologizing, there's something else. She paused. Liam and I were getting engaged. A heavy blow landed on my chest. I had expected it, but hearing it still took my breath away. So soon. Our divorce wasn't even final. Oh, I managed, my voice steady. Congratulations. Thank you, she said, her voice filled with a triumphant glee she tried to hide. Actually, we feel terrible about what happened, so would like to invite you to our engagement party. It's next Saturday. At the Hilton. Liam said he would really like to have your blessing. Invite me to their engagement party. For my blessing. I almost laughed out loud. Could they be any more shameless? My fingers turned white as I gripped the phone, but my voice was unnervingly calm, even tinged with a hint of amusement. Next Saturday. All right, I'll be there. And I'll bring you a gift you'll never forget. Stella seemed taken aback by my cheerful acceptance. Oh, that's wonderful, Clara. Liam will be so happy to hear you're coming. Happy. I could just picture his smug, condescending expression. He probably thought I had finally accepted my fate and was ready to make a graceful exit. Is there anything else? I asked, cutting her off. No, that's all. I'll have the invitation sent over. Is email okay? Email is fine, I said, giving her a secondary address. After she hung up, I stood there for a long time. They were getting engaged, while I was still legally his wife. Did they think I was so weak, so broken, that I would just roll over and accept this? The invitation arrived moments later, a lavish, digital card with a photo of them. He, handsome and distant. She, a picture of blissful innocence, clinging to his arm. A perfect couple, celebrating their love on the ashes of my dignity. Liam, you chose this path, I thought, saving the invitation. You and Stella turned this celebration into your own judgment day. I opened the security camera app. I needed more ammunition. I scrolled back to the previous night. There they were, entering the house. She, in a new pink dress, playing the part of the frightened victim. He, comforting her. I was so scared. Liam, she whimpered. What if something had happened to her? She was bleeding so much. His reply was a cold dagger. What could happen to her? It was just a scratch. She's a grown woman. Can't she take care of herself? Just a scratch. But she is your legal wife, Stella murmured, full of false concern. Wife, he scoffed. Not for long. She's just a prop. A placeholder. Don't take her seriously. He pulled her closer. Stella, you're the one I want to marry. As soon as the paperwork is done, I'll give you the wedding you deserve. As for Clara, she took the money. She should know her place and disappear. Her face flushed with triumph. But I think she really likes you. Likes me. He laughed, a sound full of scorn. She likes the status and the money that comes with being Mrs. Gu. Do you really think she has feelings for me? For 3 years. She's been nothing but a submissive, boring doormat. He whispered something in her ear, and they started laughing together, their words lost in an intimate embrace. I didn't need to hear any more. That was enough. A prop. A boring, gold-digging doormat. That was his assessment of me, of our marriage. My carefully guarded heart, my hidden love. It was all just a joke to him. Very well, Liam, I thought, the cold fury in my chest burning brighter. Let me show you what this boring, gold-digging prop is capable of. I picked up the phone and dialed the number of a private investigator I had consulted once before. Hello, Mr. Wong. This is Clara Sue. Miss Sue, how can I help you? I need you to tail 2 people, I said, giving him Liam and Stella's names. The focus is on Miss Lai. I need to know everything she does, everyone she sees, especially anything she might not want Mr. Gu to know about. There was a pause. Miss Sue, Mr. Gu is he's about to be my ex-husband, I said, in gathering evidence for the divorce. Money is not an issue. That seemed to clear things up for him. Understood. Miss Sue, we are professional and discreet. When would you like to meet to discuss the details? Tomorrow, I said. You pick the place. I hung up and looked out at the darkening city. A storm was brewing. Liam, Stella, I'm looking forward to your engagement party. I'm looking forward to watching you both, in front of everyone, step right into the abyss I've prepared for you. I'll be sure to bring that unforgettable gift. You'd better be ready to receive it. The meeting with Mr. Wang was in a discreet tea house. He was an unassuming man with sharp, intelligent eyes. I laid out my needs. The primary target was Stella. I wanted proof of any other relationships or illicit activities. For Liam, I just needed to track his movements, especially with her. I understand. Miss Sue, Mr. Wang said, pulling up some files on his tablet. Mr. Gu and Miss Lai aren't exactly low profile. We already have some basic information. He showed me photos of Stella at various parties, always looking glamorous. Her father's company, Star Materials, relies heavily on contracts with the Gu Corporation. She doesn't have a job. Her life is a whirlwind of shopping and parties. He lowered his voice. We've heard rumors that she's quite adventurous, close with a few other rich kids and models, but no solid proof. Mr. Gu either doesn't know or doesn't care. Of course he didn't care. In his mind, Stella was a pure, flawless angel. I want solid proof, I said, my voice firm. Photos, videos, recordings, whatever it takes. Money is not an issue. He nodded. Understood. Well, get on it. This might take some time. I need preliminary results by next Friday, at the latest. I cut him off. The engagement party was on Saturday. He agreed to do his best. After he left, I sat there, my mind racing. A simple affair wasn't enough to destroy them. I needed something more damaging, something related to the company. I remembered an incident 6 months ago. Liam had been furious on the phone in his study, yelling about the land in the South District, qualifications, and trouble. At the time, I hadn't paid it any mind. Now, it seemed like a potential lead. And what about his finances? He was lavish in his spending on Stella. Where did all that money come from? Was it clean? I needed someone on the inside. Someone I could trust. But in my 3 years as Liam's invisible wife, I had made no real friends. A few days passed. I received a bank alert. The $800,000 bride price had been transferred back to me. The note simply said, settled. He was so eager to cut all ties. The more ruthless he was, the less guilt I would feel. Mr. Wang called on the 4th day, his voice buzzing with excitement. Miss Sue, we have a major breakthrough. Stella, he said. We tailed her for 3 days. Last night, she didn't go back to Liam's. She went to a luxury apartment complex called Galaxy Bay. We watched all night. This morning, she came out with a man. He's a model or some clist actor. The point is, they were kissing in the garage. We have high-definition photos and a video. My breath caught. It was one thing to suspect, another to see the proof. Send them to me, I ordered. We also found out the guy's name is Finn. He's been involved with her for a while. She's even been using Liam's connections to get him gigs. Not only cheating, but using her sugar daddy's resources to support her boy toy. Keep following them, I said. I want more. The photos and videos arrived. They were incriminating. In one clip, a drunk Stella was slurring into the camera. Liam is such a bore once I marry him. All the Goof family's money will be mine. I'll treat you to the good life then. The words echoed in my head. A bore, all the Goof family's money will be mine. This is enough to cause a stir at the party. Mr. Wang said. It's not enough. I replied coldly. A simple scandal can be suppressed. I want something that will cripple them. I gave him new instructions. Focus on 2 things. Find proof of her alleged drug use. And investigate the South District project. What was her role? What did Liam know? The South District project was a long shot. But I had to try. 3 days before the engagement party, Mr. Wang called again. Even more excited. We got him. Finn is ready to talk. He was in deep with loan sharks. When he heard Stella was getting engaged, he panicked. We offered to pay off his debts. And he spilled everything. First, he has more intimate photos and videos. Second, and more importantly, he says Stella does drugs. He remembers the address and time of one of her parties. And, when she's drunk, she brags about helping Liam handle some inconvenient business related to the South District project. The South District project again. Does he have proof? He's willing to sell everything he has. He wants cash. Up front. Money is not a problem, I said. But make sure he signs an agreement. This information is for our exclusive use. This was getting better and better. But I still needed one more piece of the puzzle. The secrets on Liam's phone and computer. The engagement party was my only chance. Just as I was trying to figure out how to get close to him, my phone rang. An unknown number. Miss Sue. This is Mark. Mr. Gus' assistant. My heart pounded. Was this a trap? Miss Sue, will you be at the engagement party tomorrow? He asked nervously. Yes. He lowered his voice. Miss Sue, there's something you should know. It's about the South District project and Miss Lai. I think Mr. Gu is being deceived. My mind raced. Why would his assistant betray him? Was he trying to save the company? Or was this a setup? I have no ill intentions. He pleaded. I just don't want to see Mr. Gu get hurt. Or the company go down. We can meet in a public place. You name the time. It was a huge risk. But the mention of the South District project was too tempting to ignore. All right, I said. Tomorrow, 4 p.m. at the City Library Cafe. Whether it was a lifeline or another trap, I would find out tomorrow. The night before the party was a restless one. I met Mark at the library cafe. He was a nervous young man, but his eyes were sincere. Miss Sue, I apologize for my previous behavior. He began. Mr. Gu has a blind spot when it comes to Miss Lai, but some things you have a right to know. He told me everything. The South District project, the Splendor Garden, had been stalled due to a few holdouts in the demolition phase. Stella had stepped in, using her father's connections to hire thugs to harass and intimidate the residents until they signed. Liam thought she had just negotiated with them. Mark said bitterly. Then came the faulty building materials from Stella's father's company. Substandard concrete. Signed off on with what looked like a forged signature from Liam. who was abroad at the time. Stella had bribed a government official to cover it up. He probably still doesn't know, Mark said, handing me a U-drive. I made some copies. Police reports from the demolition, the original test results for the faulty materials, and a scan of the suspicious purchase order. I held the U-drive. It was a bomb. Why didn't you tell him yourself? I asked. He gave a wry smile. He trusts her completely. I have no solid proof. I would have just been fired for slander. He had chosen me as a last resort, hoping I could expose her before it was too late. I now had everything I needed. The engagement party was going to be spectacular. The day of the engagement party arrived, bright and sunny. After a final prenatal checkup, the baby was healthy and strong. I got ready. I chose a simple, elegant black dress. It was my armor. At the hotel, the air was thick with perfume and hypocrisy. The happy couple had not yet made their entrance. I found a quiet corner and waited. At 7, the lights dimmed, and Liam and Stella walked into a round of applause. He, in a white suit, looking aloofly handsome. She, a princess in a crystal-encrusted gown, clinging to his arm. They looked perfect together, and it made me sick. During the ring exchange, a commotion broke out at the back of the hall. As everyone's attention was diverted, I stood up and accidentally bumped into a waiter, spilling a glass of water all over Liam's white suit. I'm so sorry, I cried, rushing forward with a napkin. He was furious, but in the chaos, as I dabbed at his chest, my fingers slipped into his inner pocket and retrieved his phone. The entire maneuver took less than 2 seconds. That's enough, he snapped, pushing me away. He and a panicked Stella rushed to a back room to change. I clutched his phone, my heart pounding, and made my way to the restroom. I locked myself in a stall. The phone wasn't locked, just as Mark had said. I quickly found the Notes app where he kept his passwords and photographed everything with my own phone. His corporate network access, his project server passwords, everything. Then I took out the SIM card, wiped the phone clean, and hid it in a janitor's cart. The battery and body separated and buried in trash. I returned to the ballroom just as they were reappearing on stage. Him in a new dark suit, his face a thundercloud. The ceremony was about to conclude. The MC called for a toast, just as everyone raised their glasses. The giant LED screen behind the stage flickered. The romantic photos of the couple were replaced by a single, massive image. My pregnancy report. The room fell silent. Then the screen changed again, this time to a series of high-definition photos of Stella in a bedroom, wrapped around another man. A collective gasp went through the crowd. Liam's face froze. Then he whipped his head around, his eyes locking onto mine with a look of pure, murderous rage. I calmly raised my glass of water to him in a mock toast. How do you like the appetizer, Liam? The party descended into chaos. Stella's father was screaming at the staff. Liam's father stormed out. Stella, her face a mask of terror, pointed at me. It was her. She did this. She's jealous. I walked to the stage. Miss Lai, I said, my voice clear and calm. Are you saying I faked these photos? Shall we ask Mr. Finn to come and verify them? Or perhaps we should play the video of you calling your fiancé a bore and talking about how all his family's money will be yours. She turned white as a sheet. As for the pregnancy report, I turned to Liam. The date is clear. It was before our divorce was final. I am 4 weeks pregnant with your child. The room erupted again. Liam swayed, his face a mixture of shock, rage, and a dawning, horrified confusion. I came here tonight, I announced to the room, not to cause trouble, but to take back what is mine, the truth, and a mother's right to protect her child. I turned and walked out, the crowd parting before me. At the door, I paused. Mr. Gu, Miss Lai, I said, without looking back, have a happy engagement. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. The scandal dominated the news. Liam cheated. Stella exposed. Clara pregnant hashtags trended for days. The Gu Corporation's stock plummeted. Stella and her family were ruined. And that was just the beginning. I had my lawyer file the lawsuit the next day. But before that, I anonymously leaked the contents of the U-Drive to several investigative journalists. The stories that followed were explosive. Illegal demolition tactics, the use of substandard and radioactive building materials, corporate fraud. The authorities launched a full-scale investigation. Stella's father was arrested. The GU Corporation's assets were frozen. The one mighty family was on the brink of collapse. Liam's father, a proud old man, suffered a stroke and died a few days later. Liam tried to fight back. He hired PR firms to spread rumors about me, sent thugs to intimidate me. But it was too little. Too late. He was trapped in a web of his own making. He finally called me, his voice a broken rasp. "Clara, what do you want?" I stood by my window and looked out at the gloomy sky. "Guess," I said, and hung up. The legal battle was long and ugly, but the outcome was never in doubt. Liam was found guilty of gross negligence and corporate malfeasance. He avoided a long prison sentence, but was given a 2-year suspended sentence and a massive fine that wiped out what was left of his fortune. Stella was sentenced to several years in prison for her role in the various crimes. The Goof family was shattered. The court granted my divorce, gave me full custody of our son, and ordered Liam to pay a substantial amount in child support. His visitation rights were severely restricted. I had one. After his probation, Liam was a ghost. He worked menial jobs, a shadow of the man he once was. People who knew him said he was a broken man, haunted by his past. Stella, I heard, had a complete mental breakdown in prison and was transferred to a psychiatric facility. I moved to a new city, to a quiet, sunny apartment, and prepared for the birth of my child. The night before I went into labor, Liam called. His voice was a ghost's whisper, begging to see the child. Just once. "Father," I said, my voice cold. "You want to be a father now? When you left me bleeding on the road, when you disowned me, did you think of yourself as a father then?" "The father of this child," I told him, "died that day." I hung up and blocked his number for the last time. The next day, my son was born. I named him Noah, as in, a new beginning. I watched him grow, his laughter filling my home, healing the last of my wounds. I opened a small floral design studio, a quiet, simple life. I never thought of Liam. He was a closed chapter, a forgotten story. His repentance, his suffering, it was his own private hell to endure. My life, and Noah's, was full of light,